I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
The term independent film has been corrupted over the years, with big-name talent making what they call small passion projects, with budgets of $5 million or more. But in the early 1990s, the term independent truly meant independent, with the likes of Richard Linklater and Robert Rodriguez shooting their inaugural films for under $25,000 each. Rodriguez even famously submitted himself to medical experiments in order to raise funds. And yet, it can be argued that no movie truly ignited the world of independent film quite like Kevin Smith's 1994 semi-autobiographical film, Clerks. How did this cult favorite take him from a minimum-wage working college dropout to the voice of a generation? Grab a Gatorade and some salsa while we find out what the f*** happened to this movie. The origin story of Clerks actually starts on a specific date, August 2nd, 1991. On Kevin Smith's 21st birthday, he went to see a film that he had been hearing a lot about, Richard Linklater's Slacker. Smith said that was the first time he realized movies didn't all have to be expensive stories about blowing up Death Stars. They could be smaller, more intimate snapshots of where you are in your life. This prompted him to enroll in the Vancouver Film School to fine-tune his filmmaking abilities. On his first day, he saw what he called a 90210-looking pretty boy and thought to himself, I hate this motherfucker. That person turned out to be his future longtime collaborator and best friend, Scott Mosier, who admits the first time he saw Smith, he judged him as just a fat guy in an oversized trench coat. One day when they actually spoke, they realized they had more in common than they thought. It wasn't long before Smith came to the conclusion that film school just wasn't for him. Smith told Mosier that he could take his refunded tuition money and put it towards making his own movie, and he was heading back to New Jersey to write a script. Mosier was also writing a script of his own, so the pair agreed that whoever finished first would help the other make it. Once back in Jersey, Smith got his old job back at the Quick Stop, with one caveat. He asked if he could shoot a movie there in the off hours, to which the owners agreed. Smith spent time on a story set in a world he was all too familiar with, filled with characters that came from his real life. One of those characters was the off-the-wall Jason Mewes. Smith and Mewes first met as teenagers on a road trip to a comic convention with mutual friends. Mewes had called shotgun to secure the front passenger seat, and as the other travelers couldn't stop laughing at Mewes' antics, Smith jealously sat in the back, thinking, he ain't so f***ing funny. Following that trip, Mewes began making unannounced visits to the home of Smith, who was not interested in hanging out, even explaining to Mewes that they had mutual friends, but that was the extent of their relationship. To which Mewes replied, cool, so yeah, what are we doing today? That childlike innocence, combined with a penchant for foul-mouthed rants, ultimately led Smith to create Jay and Silent Bob, the drug-dealing loiterers outside the Quick Stop and RST video store. When Mewes first saw the script, he was initially unsure he could do it, to which Smith said, it's all the shit you already do. The original script for Clerks was actually titled Inconvenience, and had a more David Lynch vibe, focusing on peculiar characters shopping in the overnight hours. A friend of Smith's suggested the title Rude Clerks, which eventually got shortened to just Clerks. Some devilish inspiration led to the final shooting script. It's a very loose retelling of the Divine Comedy, also known as Dante's Inferno, hence our lead character. The film features 9 scene headings throughout, meant to represent the 9 circles of hell. Smith sent the completed script to Scott Mosier, who loved the rapid-fire dialogue, and honored their agreement to come and assist making the film. Smith originally intended to play Randall, with another old friend as Dante. He held auditions at the local rec center where he had worked in high school. Smith had essentially already cast the lead roles with his friends, but was holding auditions for some of the smaller roles. But the people who came to audition were actual actors. Brian O'Halloran and Marilyn Gigliotti were local stage actors who blew Smith away, leading him to realize he needed experienced actors in the main roles. Jeff Anderson actually showed up at the rec center just out of curiosity, and he auditioned on a whim. But Smith immediately knew he had found his Randall, even though he had written the role for himself. Smith reshuffled the remaining cast and took the decidedly less demanding role of Silent Bob. He enlisted Dante's former flame at a local acting class after following Lisa Spoonhour to her car and asking, "This is going to sound weird, but would you like to be in a movie?" Her only reply was, "Not if it's a porno." And with that, Smith had found his Caitlin. With casting in place, it was time to fund his little passion project, and this is where the true independent spirit comes into the picture. Including the $5,000 he got from his returned film school tuition, Smith would sell off his entire comic book collection to boost the budget. and used a $3,000 check he got from FEMA for flood damage to his car and other valuables. He then maxed out every credit card to arrive at the final production budget of $27,575. Mosier and Smith used a Filmmaker magazine article as a guide to stretching a tiny budget. One such clever tactic was keeping the store shutters closed,
Someone jammed gum in the locks.
Bunch of savages in this town.
which allowed them to shoot at night for a daytime setting. With Smith directing and Mosier producing, they still needed that ever-important person behind the camera, a director of photography. Smith originally saw a newspaper ad for local DP John Thomas, who had shot the film Metropolitan. Thomas could be hired for $1,000 a week with his full camera package, and Smith was willing to make the investment. But Mosier expressed concern that such an experienced person would take control of the film. Luckily, after Smith left film school, Mosier became friends with 19-year-old David Klein, a passionate, aspiring cinematographer, and he convinced Smith to give him a shot. Klein wasn't just behind the camera as DP, but got a few moments in front of it as well.
Ooh, Navy SEALs!
The black and white film started production in 1993, shooting 21 nights. The cast and crew would work their normal jobs during the day, then convene at the store every night at 11 and shoot until 6 in the morning, sneaking in some sleep whenever possible before repeating the cycle. Some actors ended up in multiple roles because people cast in bit parts just didn't show up. So Smith's close friend Walt Flanagan helped out using various disguises. Smith even called his mom at 2 in the morning to fill in when the milkmaid actor was a no-show. One sacrifice to the budget was the events of Julie Dwyer's funeral, which Smith had written but couldn't afford to shoot. The grim details were later revealed in comic format. Mosier and Smith used the RST video store as their personal editing suite, with film stock laying all over the place. Mosier has said that they were blessed by ignorance, because anyone on that set who knew what they were doing would have ruined the whole experience. With the film finally complete, it was time to get it in front of an audience. The first viewer was Smith's own mother, who, after watching the film, said, "You spent 27 grand on this piece of garbage? Good thing Smith doesn't hold a grudge." Smith had read a Village Voice article about how Richard Linklater got his film into the independent feature film marketplace. He followed those steps and actually got his film into that showcase, with a Sunday 11 a.m. time slot. Smith and Mosier were ecstatic. All week long, they had seen lines of people outside the iconic Angelica Theater. They enthusiastically talked up their little movie to the waiting filmgoers, only to have the wind knocked out of their sails when someone mentioned that Sunday at 11 a.m. was actually the worst time slot. Sure enough, when their time came, the theater was practically empty. As his film played to so many unoccupied seats, Smith had a bit of a panic attack, thinking, "I'm f***ed. Why did I think I could do this?" And yet, even if the premiere seemed like a massive failure, sometimes all it takes is a single person to change your life. For Smith and Mosier, that person was IFFM representative Bob Hawke, who had seen the Clerks brochure photo and thought it looked kind of pathetic, like someone's mother had taken it. Feeling sympathetic, he went to see the movie he knew nobody else was going to watch at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. Well, Hawke could not stop laughing during the screening and fell in love with the irreverent dialogue. After the screening, he called Amy Taubin, the writer for the Village Voice article that helped Smith get Clerks entered, and he told her she needed to see the film. Taubin got Smith's home phone number to acquire a copy, and his mom answered and replied, "You mean someone actually liked my son's movie?" Smith initially didn't believe it was actually Taubin on the phone, an anecdote she used in her piece on the film. Not long after, Smith received another phone call, this time from Peter Broderick, the writer of the Filmmaker magazine article about working with minuscule budgets. Broderick also happened to be the programmer of the New Directors' New Films Festival at the Museum of Modern Art. When Smith asked Broderick how he heard about the movie, he was told it was Bob Hawke, an influential person in indie film, who was telling everyone about Clerks. Smith got Hawke's number to call and thank him, only for Hawke to tell him that, although he was clearly inexperienced, Clerks was everything a film should be, calling it outsider art. Hawke then sent a copy to John Pearson, a producer's rep who was responsible for selling films to distributors and festivals. He had previously sold films like Slacker, Roger and Me, and Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It. When the copy of Clerks arrived at his home, Pearson was out of town, but his wife decided to watch it. She called him and said that if he intended on leaving his job as a producer's rep, he should never watch Clerks because he would want to rep it. Pearson did watch the film, but he called Smith to say that even though it was a great movie, there was no real audience for it. For Smith, that was a death blow. He had made an enjoyable but unsellable film. His career was already over, and he had massive credit card debt. But the film stuck with Pearson, who eventually decided it was a film he had to help get in front of audiences. However, he did have one note. In the film's darker original ending, an armed assailant enters and kills Dante after he closes the store. Smith wrote that ending as a payoff to the phrase,
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
the ultimate irony, being killed on your day off. Pearson suggested that the film simply end right as Dante closes the store. Through Pearson and the press pieces written by Amy Taubin, Clerks came to the attention of Mark Tusk, who worked in the acquisitions department of Miramax Studio. Tusk and co-worker John Gordon both fell in love with the film and rallied behind it, setting up a screening for Miramax head honcho Harvey Weinstein. But at the screening, Weinstein, an avid smoker, got up and left after the anti-smoking rant. He directed Tusk and Gordon to pass on the film. They both knew that was a mistake, but you can't go against the big boss. Smith and Mosier then submitted Clerks to the Sundance Film Festival at the behest of Bob Hawke, who was on the selections committee. Hawke championed the film to the rest of the committee, who weren't entirely sold on the potentially offensive material, but Hawke persisted and the film was ultimately selected. Clerks had several screenings scheduled at Sundance, the first of which had many press members in attendance, but no distributors. After that first screening, the buzz began to build thanks to exuberant articles about the film, one calling it David Mamet meets Howard Stern. This word of mouth spread through the festival, and each screening was more packed than the last. By this point, Mark Tusk was even more determined to get the film picked up by Miramax. Using the positive press, he convinced Harvey Weinstein to see the film again, this time with an audience. The heavyweight producer agreed to give the film a second chance. At the final Sundance screening on January 28, 1994, Mark Tusk and John Gordon purposely sat Weinstein in the middle of a row so he would be unable to make an easy escape, and they told him he couldn't leave the screening until after he hears 37.
37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
Kevin Smith would later recount that during this screening, he was getting annoyed by a loud, boisterous laugh all throughout the film, comparing it to Robert De Niro's infamous scene from Cape Fear. That laugh was coming from none other than Harvey Weinstein. At the end of the film, when Silent Bob gives his only line, it was originally meant to be spoken by Jay, but when it came time to film, Muse simply couldn't get the line out, thus giving way to the Silent Bob trait of only speaking when it matters. And at the screening, the entire theater erupted in loud cheers at this moment, and Weinstein looked at Tusk and Gordon and gave a thumbs up. They had permission to buy the movie. Directly after the film, Tusk, Gordon, and Weinstein met Smith and Mosier at the diner across the street, and over a plate of potato skins, Clerks sold to Miramax for $227,000, 10 times its budget. After acquiring the film, Miramax felt the soundtrack needed to be amped up with more alt-rock anthems from bands like Soul Asylum, Bad Religion, and Stabbing Westward. It was a rare case where the music licensing cost more than the actual budget of the film. Weinstein pushed for Clerks to be shown at that year's Cannes Film Festival. Although it was eventually accepted, it was so late that it was not featured in any of the film guides. And still, Smith would receive the Award of the Youth from the festival. Before Clerks could be officially released in theaters, it required an MPAA rating. Although the film features no violence and no on-screen sex or nudity, the MPAA found the profane language, including its 91 F-bombs, somehow warranted an NC-17 rating. But Weinstein hired famed O.J. Simpson defense attorney Alan Dershowitz to challenge the MPAA on the rating, and won the argument to earn an R with no cuts being made. Clerks received a limited theatrical release, never appearing on more than 100 screens at any given time, and yet it still managed to gross an impressive $3 million, 10 times Miramax's investment. Perhaps unsurprisingly, it was also a home video sensation, popping up on the shelves of countless video stores just like Randall's bothersome place of employment. Marvel may now be known for assembling a shared cinematic universe, but Kevin Smith beat them by more than a decade with the View Askewniverse, an interconnected series named for his production company. Clerks would spawn various comics, a short-lived animated series, and a never-aired pilot, and a return in 2006 with Clerks 2, catching up with Dante and Randall in their 30s. There was also a number of other related movies, which included roles for a pre-Oscar Ben Affleck, and a pair of live-action Jay and Silent Bob movies. With the recent revelations about Harvey Weinstein, Smith acknowledged that the powerful producer, quote, financed the first 14 years of my career, and now I know while I was profiting, others were in terrible pain. It makes me feel so ashamed. Smith vowed to donate all further residuals from his Miramax and Weinstein Company films to the nonprofit organization Women in Film. Clerks has gone down in history as one of the quintessential independent films, and was even selected for preservation in the Library of Congress National Film Registry, sitting alongside classics like All the President's Men, The Godfather, and Citizen Kane. It might not have launched Smith to the Hollywood A-list, but its success has inspired countless hopeful young filmmakers. In the years since Clerks was released, Kevin Smith himself has helped popularize the podcast format, written for comics and directed TV superheroes, produced a reality show set in his own comic shop, and stayed close to his independent roots. And thanks to his candid anecdotes, affable personality, and bottomless nerd knowledge, he remains a prominent face and voice in pop culture. And in one last bit of serendipity, on August 2nd, 2021, Kevin Smith's 51st birthday, and exactly 30 years after he saw Richard Linklater's Slacker, cameras would start rolling on the final installment in the Convenience trilogy, Clerks 3. Hard to believe it all started with ambitious intentions, a group of friends, a tiny budget, and a black and white movie about miserable, low-paying jobs.
You know what the real tragedy about all this is? I'm not even supposed to be here today!
Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our Joe Blow Videos channel. Tell your friends who like this sort of content, and turn on the bell to receive notifications for all our latest videos. We are an independent company, and we appreciate your support.
Hello? Y'all can hear me, right? Okay. Okay, you guys can hear me. Cool. Yeah, welcome to Friday Night Flicks. I'm so sorry you guys missed my impression of Dante Hicks, but it looks like everybody's able to hear me now. Okay. You guys are hearing me, right? Okay. So, welcome to Friday Night Flicks. Apologies for that. Don't know what happened there, but it sounds like it's fixed and we are ready to go. So for those of you that stuck around for that first 60 seconds, looks like all of you did. Thank you so much for still being here. Welcome to Friday Night Flicks. I am your host, Kier Gomes, and I am excited for so many reasons tonight, guys. We are going to be talking Kevin Smith, which is a large Joe Blow phenomenon. We all love Kevin Smith over here. We all know Kevin Smith at Joe Blow. And I would maybe go as far as to consider myself the resident Kevin Smith expert. Okay, I don't know. But we are going to be ranking all of his films this evening. And as well, we're going to add a few extras in there. Friday Night Hicks. This is a great comment. I do want to say, too, shout out the chat. So one of the reasons I'm so excited for tonight's show is that the chat during the pre-show has been incredible. And even I was getting in there. I had to throw some replies. We're talking about something that I care about so much. Yeah, well, you can hear me now. Yeah. All right, Gilberto, hello. Hello, thank you for being here. Yeah, you guys, thank you so much for being so active in the chat so early on. That always makes the show really fun, and I think especially when we talk about when we do tier lists or we talk about multiple films, it's good to get comments in there to kind of break up the opinion, so it's not just me having a one-sided conversation. So Chasing Amy did not age well, says your party. We'll talk about that. That is one of the many things that we're going to be talking about on tonight's Friday Night Flicks. Again, apologies for any audio issues at the beginning, but we are squared away now. And before I start the show, there are a few things I want to say. Number one, for those of you like us at Joe Blow that are in the movie sphere, we lost a very good, very important filmmaker in David Lynch recently this week, and that is tough. That very much will be felt, I think, throughout cinema. David Lynch is obviously iconic, and if you guys aren't familiar with his many films, perhaps you've seen Mulholland Drive or Blue Velvet or Twin Peaks. Those are Lynch films and a TV show. So we're going to be doing some stuff around the channel to honor his legacy, but I did just want to take a brief moment to say rest in peace to David Lynch. You're truly one of the masters, and you taught so many people so many things. So thank you for that. Rest in peace. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you guys. It looks like everybody's feeling the weight of that. Yes. Rest in peace to David Lynch, man. That's a tough one to swallow. John Hughes was hard for me as well. I remember I was a teenager when John Hughes died. I was maybe 17, 18 years old when John Hughes died, and man, whew, I remember being very sad. But this is kind of that same melancholy feeling, you know. You feel like you're losing somebody that helped form, you know, nostalgia in your mind. So, yeah, Eraserhead. Big shout out to Eraserhead. I saw a comment earlier that said that Clerks is the Eraserhead of the 90s, which I thought was funny. Not sure I agree, but yeah. So anyway, rest in peace, David Lynch. To move on from that, I also want to say there is a link in the description for any of you guys that want to dig into those pockets and donate to the fires in LA. There's a relief fund. Link is in the description. Feel free to browse it on your own time and check it out and decide what you want to do. But it's there if you want it. So there you go. And then other than that, guys, tonight we are going to be doing a giveaway, but we're not just going to be doing one. We're going to be doing 3 giveaways this evening just because we're in such a good mood. We're going to be giving away 3 copies of VHS Beyond, and that is the new anthology VHS film. Takes place in space. This one's pretty good. So we're going to be giving away 3 copies of the Blu-ray for that. I agree, Boots. Bootzilla says Mulholland Drive is an absolute masterpiece. Yes, indeed. So was Blue Velvet. If you guys haven't seen Blue Velvet, that one, just like tonight's show, is maybe more for mommy and daddy, not for the kids. You know, I would say maybe all of Lynch's movies, not for the kids. You know. How does this keep happening? I'm so sorry. I'm back now, but rest assured this will not stand and it will not continue. I'm checking the cord now, but I think I'm good to go. Okay, you guys should be able to hear me now. I can't believe this is happening. Okay, let me know if I'm back. I'm so sorry for this, you guys. Okay. I think I'm back now, yeah? Let's check. Okay, good to go. We're back. I don't know what keeps happening. I I am keeping an eye on the microphone cord. So I'm trying to keep it nice and tight, but with just enough slack so it doesn't yank out. Okay, I think we're good. This never happens. All right, but yeah, I didn't realize how many Kevin Smith movies there were. Like, I've seen them all, which is crazy. Which is, when you look at them on a list like this, it's so funny to think that, you know, you've seen all these movies and there are varying levels of quality, I tell you. But it's weird looking at it on a list like this, just how many movies the dude has made. Now, Kevin Smith, just a little bit of history with me, or at least with us, at Joe Blow and Kevin Smith. We're fans. We like Clerks, and that's what started it all. And I think that for us, and at least I'll speak just for myself, but you know, I think in terms of Joe Blow, Kevin Smith has definitely been a big part of our identity. And many of us, people in my generation, grew up on Kevin Smith. And for me, as a little kid, I think he was the first like director that I remember like caring about. You know, when I was a little kid, I cared more about, you know, the movie itself. I didn't really know directors. I didn't know, you know, the IMDb list of everybody that worked on these movies. But the first director that I really remember getting into and looking forward to his next film was Kevin Smith. And so to me, he'll always kind of have this special place in my heart as, I don't know, kind of the guy that got me. I think to me, I was telling this to Mike Conway, who also works at Joe Blow, earlier today. I was saying, I think Kevin Smith is to me what Stan Lee was to Kevin Smith. You know, I think of Kevin Smith as kind of this, like, his early movies made me want to make movies. And, you know, that's kind of something that is still in me today. So I give him a lot of credit for that. Carlos, thank you for being here. A fellow Joe Blower says, Kevin Smith is a great person. I agree. I like Kevin Smith. He seems like a really sweet guy, you know? All right, now we will be talking about all kinds of Kevin Smith stuff today, and I've even got some Kevin Smith show and tell for you guys. But first, let's start with the tier list, and we're also doing 3 giveaways this evening, so we got to get going. No more technical issues. I'm committing to it. All right, let's go. First movie we have is Tusk. I can tell from the comments that we have Tusk fans here. Look at this. Watch. I don't even have to look far. Boom. Didn't have to look that far. Hip hop legend. Tusk is a guilty pleasure of mine. I feel like in today's world, when you bring up Kevin Smith, Tusk is kind of a movie that comes up a lot because it's a very divisive movie. It's also, you know, a little bit weird for Kevin Smith, you know. It's also kind of based on, not really based on a true story, but it's based on a true Craigslist post that Kevin Smith spun into a wild story. Here's the thing with Tusk. I actually like this movie when the mood strikes. I think Justin Long is a real treasure. I love him in pretty much everything. But I also, this is not a movie that I pop on often. You know what I mean? I've seen this movie a handful of times, maybe even less than that. It's good, and I think it's one of those ones I respect and appreciate maybe more than I personally enjoy. But I have to say, the Johnny Depp kind of character added to the movie, I think, is a little bit of a detractor in my book. I know some people love that. That's part of like what makes it for them, but for me, a little less so. So I like Tusk. I'm gonna put Tusk at good because I consider this a good film. I do kind of enjoy my experience when I watch Tusk, but I also have to admit it's not one that I get the urge to watch often. You know what I'm saying? I think so. That makes sense, right? You guys know. I can already smell it. The comments are gonna be like, "How the hell did you put Tusk in the middle?" Or people being like, "No, that movie's trash. It should have been lower." So obviously a very divisive movie, and that just is what it is. But in my book, it kind of lands in the middle. I think most people love it or hate it, but for me, I appreciate a lot of things about it. It's just not something that I get the urge to watch. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Let's take a look at the next one. Yoga Hosers. So one that I know we agreed early on. It's kind of this unspoken thing between me and the audience. So if you know, I know we kind of all agreed we weren't going to talk about Yoga Hosers, but we have to because the completionist in me could not do this list unless I watched and ranked every single one of these movies. So Yoga Hosers has to be here. Now, I do want to say, let me bring myself back up for a second. Make myself a little smaller so that way maybe you guys, maybe that's better. I will say this, listen. To my brother, Jake, and I know you're probably watching tonight. I know you like this movie. I know you think the Bratzies are funny. I know you think that the premise is kind of perfect. I think Yoga Hosers is one of the worst movies. Definitely in Kevin Smith's catalog, but maybe ever. I hate Yoga Hosers so much. Now listen, I've seen this movie a couple of times. Okay. Now, admittedly, I watched it through and through the first time, assuming I would maybe like it. And then the second time I watched it was this week for research for this video or for this live stream. So, it's kind of funny because it is a movie that, like, in theory, is perfect for Kevin Smith. It's a super kind of high concept movie, shot in one place. It's a familiar territory, even, and it's small, so it's kind of perfect for. It's kind of suited to his specifications as a great filmmaker. But it's too out there for me. I don't get the humor. I think it's a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to say immature because it's, like immature. I can't qualify that really because immature can be funny, like Will Ferrell or other Kevin Smith movies that are immature. Immature can be hilarious. This felt a little bit like, I don't know, like immature for a new generation. And I'm just not part of that generation. So the movie did not have any effect on me. In fact, if anything, I would say this is maybe my least favorite Kevin Smith movie. I don't know. We're gonna get to so many more. All right, let's take some comments. Tinfoil Sack says Dogma, Salma Hayek in panties dancing beautifully to Jackson 5. Really can't go wrong. Clerks 2, Rosario Dawson dancing and bouncing beautifully. Can't go wrong, Kevin Smith knows how to cast a good cast, I'll say that. Yeah, I agree with Ryan Guerra here. You got to be real smart to make immature, funny, and good. I agree, but obviously it's been done, like off the top of my head, the Jackass guys make immature funny. They're not necessarily smart, but they're funny and they're brave. And I think sometimes maybe that's part of it as well. If you're going to be immature and go down as one of the best at it, you got to be a little bit ballsy and brave as well. All right, let's get back. So off to kind of an underwhelming start because I can't explain to you guys how much I love Kevin Smith and the legacy he's built. I read these recently. These are his new comics. These are the quick stops. If you guys haven't read these, they're not great. They are published by Dark Horse, so there's a little bit of credibility there. The writing isn't brilliant or anything. They're not revolutionary, but the artwork is good. The pages are black and white, which I love, as I show you all the ads for colored, but they're black and white. You guys should check these out. I don't know. They're not written super well, but if you're into the lore of the View Askew universe, these books kind of add some stuff to that. For example, if you didn't know, Randall from Clerks, again, shout out to my brother Jake, who got me this for my birthday one year. Randall from Clerks is actually Brody from Mallrats' cousin. And these comics kind of go into that. They have some kind of side adventures. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I feel like we're off to a little bit of an underwhelming start with with the Kevin Smith horror movies coming first on the list. But actually, here's a curveball because now we'll get to one that I think is kind of under talked about when it comes to Kevin Smith and his legacy. And I think that's because this is one of the only ones in his comedy lineup anyway that isn't immediately set in the View Askew universe, meaning none of the main characters are of the View Askew universe. We'll talk more about how this movie fits into the larger scheme of the Clerks world later. But Zach and Miri make a porno. Now, again, this episode is mostly for the mommies and daddies out there, okay? Kids, I love you. Thanks for being here, but you might want to beat it, or at least don't let anyone hear what you're listening to, because this is gonna out of context. This is gonna sound weird. Zach and Miri make a porno. I think it's genius. I love this movie. I'm gonna put this in great movies from Kevin Smith. Now, am I saying that this is Oscar worthy? High level, highbrow comedy? No, of course not. That's not Kevin Smith's style. But Zach and Miri Make a Porno is, for somebody who follows kind of Kevin Smith, it's kind of a rite of passage movie. You feel it's Kevin Smith making what feels like a traditional studio comedy, it's Kevin Smith tackling a 40-year-old virgin style film with actors that are kind of in the Judd Apatow network, and it worked to a T. This movie, it's just like your standard Judd Apatow fare. It's just like your 40-year-old virgin and Knocked Up and This Is 40 type stuff, but it's got that Kevin Smith raunchiness to it that adds a level of humor kind of over the glossy, polished studio comedy. I'm ranting, but this movie is great. Yeah, I agree with Ryan Guerra. It feels like Apatow of the time. Yeah, exactly. It feels like an early Apatow picture. The thing is, the cast is part of that, right? Seth Rogen being the main character alongside Elizabeth Banks, who is also a Judd Apatow kind of actress. She was in 40-Year-Old Virgin. So it does have the Judd Apatow flavor, but it has the Kevin Smith degeneracy leaking all over it and just making it fun and funny and raunchier than your standard studio comedy. Mr. Bucket Man, you guys can look this up. I'm not going to tell you what this is, but the Dutch Rudder, if you guys can look that. Don't look it up. Don't listen to me. Don't look it up. Do not look it up, please. But if you did look it up, don't ever tell me what you found. Okay, I'm not interested. So Zach and Miri is great. I love the casting of the movie. I love Seth Rogen. I think especially at that time, he's just so funny. Elizabeth Banks, I love her. She's hilarious. She's great. Yeah, Granny Panties. Yeah, her name in the movie was Miri, but she was better known virally as Granny Panties. But another performance from Justin Long. Can we talk about Justin Long in Zach and Miri right quick? He plays Brandon St. Randy. If you guys don't remember, he's the lover of Brandon Routh, who plays Bobby Long. And they are the best gay couple I've ever seen in a studio comedy. I think as far as that's not maybe like an LGBTQ movie, but like their chemistry as frustrated with each other lovers is so good. And Justin Long, the way he says, "Listen up, men rovers," and he talks like this, the way he talks. You're not in my demographic. And then he goes, "Who's your demographic?" And he goes, "Do you love chicks?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Then not you." If you guys haven't, what's up? Gory Tiger, what up? Thank you for being here. If you guys haven't seen Zach and Miri, do yourselves a favor. Go check it out. It's got some classics like Jeff Anderson, classic Kevin Smith boy. He's in it, but Craig Robinson, as always, incredible. Just such a good movie. And I'll leave you guys with a quote from Zach and Miri that only people that have seen the movie will know or understand the gravity of. And that is, don't ever say shit covered to me again. Don't ever say I got my shit covered, okay? All right, it's a family show. Okay, next we're on to the big one, guys. This is one of many heavy hitters on the list of Kevin Smith films. Next, we're talking about Clerks. I have it on VHS here. Look, with the original Be Kind Rewind sticker on it. Check that out. I'm dating myself. I'm aging myself by showing that off, but that's a treasure of mine. You only keep so much stuff, and that's one you keep. Clerks. Listen, Clerks is the movie that got all of us video essay guys going. It's the movie that made us all want to be filmmakers and eventually settle for being film talkers, right? Clerks is, I mean, God, this movie to me, this is my like mariachi, like Robert Rodriguez, you know, like Kevin Smith was like my original Robert Rodriguez. And they are friends, by the way, which I think is cool. And Clerks is simple. It's a movie about two dudes who work in a store and have one of the worst days of their lives. That's it. That's what the movie's about. I'm putting this one as Snoogans. This is top tier Kevin Smith for me. Again, am I saying it's Oscar worthy? Maybe. But you know what? Maybe I am. Maybe I am saying that, and maybe you can quote me on it. Maybe you can make fun of me all you want, because I don't goddamn care. I love the Clerks film, the original one. We'll talk more about the other ones, which I do have opinions and thoughts on. But I watch Clerks maybe the most. I'm not saying it's my favorite Kevin Smith movie. I think he has made better movies. You know, this is his first one. It's not going to be perfect. But what this movie means to me and what it did for me, it just, and I'm sure it's going to be the same with so many of you. Yeah, Zornan, I mean, I don't think it aged. No, I don't think it ages. Clerks aged fine. It didn't, it's not racist. There's no like risky jokes, maybe besides like a few gay slurs that are super uncool and would not show up in a Kevin Smith movie now, ideally. But, you know, I think Clerks aged great. I watch this movie pretty much every year, at least once, sometimes more. And I think a lot of the humor holds up. I think it also is one of those movies that really speaks to a generation of not only aspiring filmmakers, but just a generation of people. People from my generation resonated with Clerks. I remember very well when I was a kid. Yeah, Hip Hop Legend, Be Kind Rewind is one of my favorite movies of all time. Jack Black and Mos Def, classic pairing. But yeah, no, Clerks is it's one that kids were talking about when I was a kid, and then when I was a teenager, people were still talking about. And then, you know, as I get into an adult, it's a movie that built something that also built something inside of me, you know, and it's a movie that I appreciate and I love it so much. And I think its shortcomings are part of its charm. And I don't say that about many movies, but I love it. I love it. Ryan Guerra says Mallrats probably aged worse than Clerks. Definitely it did. Mallrats aged a little worse than Clerks. Yes. We want to talk about a movie that definitely did not age that well. And we're talking Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Okay, guys, story time for Jay and Silent Bob Strike. First, let me rank it, and then I'll let you guys react. I'll give you a pause for reaction, and then I'll explain. Okay, how about we do it that way? Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Putting it in great. I'm going to give you guys a second to get your comments in, to either get upset or whatever you need to do, and then I'll explain. Putting it in great next to Zach and Miri. Okay. Now, I know, because I'm a Kevin Smith loyalist, you know, and potentially a Kevin Smith defender on some movies that are not great that I still love. But I gotta say, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back it's another one of those movies that is special to me because of a personal, you know, association I have with the movie. When that movie came out, I was way too young to be watching it, just like I was with every Kevin Smith movie before it. And just like every Kevin Smith movie before it as well, I watched it anyway, when I knew I shouldn't have. And part of that made the movie even better, because it was this hard R rating comedy with just relentless references to so many things that a young boy should not be hearing. And because of that, it rocked my fucking world. And Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was one of those movies. I watched it, I don't know, 10 times a year, maybe 10 times in a single summer. Maybe 10 times. I might have watched how about this? I might have watched Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back 10 times in a single summer as a young boy, as a young lad. Okay. I loved that movie the way that I still love Ghostbusters and Home Alone and Indiana Jones. I love that. I've had that movie on a fucking pedestal. Okay. So why is it not goated? I think it's funnier than Clerks, but I don't think it's as impactful as Clerks. So that's part of it. But I also think this is a movie that aged badly. This movie did not age very well, okay? There's a lot of homophobic stuff going on in this movie. I'm not really down with that. You know, make fun of me if you want, but I'm not really, I just don't find that kind of thing funny anymore, you know? And maybe, I don't know, maybe I did when I was younger. I'm not real sure. But I'm not, yeah, a random YouTuber. I see your comment. I get it. That's it. You know, you don't have to keep commenting it. Oh, okay. See, Zoran the Barbarian is making a huge, bold assumption here. He thinks I watched it so much for all the tight Henny and latex pants, all the ladies during the monkey heist. And that's probably part of it. You know, you got look at that 90s cast. You had Kevin Smith's wife, but you also had Eliza Dushku and Shannon Elizabeth and the girl from Final Destination cast in that movie. And when I was a kid, I liked Final Destination and American Pie, you know, and The New Guy, and all those girls were in those movies. So yeah, man, don't be so suburban. It's all the same. There's no more lines. Ryan Guerra giving a nice George Carlin quote from Jay and Silent Bob from Strike Back. Yeah, so listen, Strike Back, it didn't age so well. There's a lot of jokes that are just maybe a little too insensitive, a little too edgy for me now. But you also have Will Ferrell, Chris Rock, James Vanderbeek, Jason Biggs, Diedrich Bader. You had all these guys giving cameos in this movie that just made it fucking brilliant. Ben Affleck with the dead hooker thing, Matt Damon with the hunting season, Goodwill 2 bit. Excuse me, man. I just think that movie, as a young movie lover, that movie was made for me. That movie was made for young movie lovers, and I think it's great. I still think it's great. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Jay and Silent Bob Strike. Yeah, they had the Scream cameo. They were a cameo in Scream 3. That's pretty fun. And they had, they were in a meta universe. Kevin Smith has always been good about the View Askew universe existing. We'll talk more about that as well. All right. And speaking of Carlin, we've got Jersey Girl. Woo! Kevin Smith's attempt to make a wholesome studio family movie, a kind of a comedy drama with Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, J-Lo was in it, Jason Biggs. Listen, I'm giving Jersey Girl passable, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. I don't think it's a bad movie. I actually think, as far as the direction of the movies, it's actually a pretty good movie. It feels a lot more cinematic than usual Kevin Smith. It doesn't feel like a run and gun, set the camera up and lights and color be damned. It feels like a thought out, full cinematography film. The problem with the film is that I fucking don't connect with it. It's boring. It doesn't make me feel whatever it's trying to make me feel, It's a little bit tragic, but I don't feel sad when J-Lo dies, because there's not really a lot going on with her character in the beginning. Ben Affleck is a great actor, but, do I buy him as a single dad? Not at that time in his career. No, I don't. I think the best thing about that movie had to be Carlin. And other than that, I just don't find the movie that funny or that sad. It's Liv, L-I-V. Zoran the Barbarian. It's L-I-V, Liv. Like Olivia. Liv Tyler. Yup. Yeah, so Jersey Girl, there's not much I can say about it. I mean, I like the Sweeney Todd stage play gimmick. I actually think that's cute. I think it's cute that instead of doing a cute family thing, they, Gertie, the daughter in the movie, her idea is kind of to just fucking go full dark and do Sweeney Todd. So I do kind of like that aspect of it. It's, you know, it's cute, but it's just, I mean, this is a movie I can never think of a time when I'm going to want to watch Jersey Girl. I can never think of a time when that movie is the one I want to watch, you know? So for that, it's not whack, but I don't like it. It's just a passable movie. Okay. All right. Ooh, we're back to Clerks. Okay. Now listen, this is actually funny. So Clerks is the movie. Yes, Zoran, it's Liv. Clerks 2 is the movie that Kevin Smith made directly after Jersey Girl. When Jersey Girl flopped and people didn't care for it or go watch it, Kevin Smith did a little bit of a pivot move or a little bit of a backtrack, and he's like, you know what? My next movie is going to be a total return to form. Something that I know will work for me. I'm going to make a sequel to the movie that started it all. And that's Dietrich Bader is the name of who you're talking about. A random YouTuber with Kiki as the profile picture. Rex from Napoleon Dynamite and the security guard from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is Dietrich Bader. I think I'm saying his name right. It's a weird name for me. So Clerks 2. Clerks 2 was Kevin Smith's return to form. His way back in. His way out of studio Jersey Girl bullshit and his way back to just good old-fashioned, you know, degenerate fucking comedy. And we got Clerks 2. Tell you a little story about Clerks 2 before I rank it for you. Let me tell you a little story. I went and saw Clerks 2 at the movie theater with my brother and my cousin one summer, the summer that it came out. We went to go see it, and the first time I saw it, I was, again, too fucking young to be seeing that movie, and I didn't like it. Compared to Clerks, I was like, nah. Compared to Clerks, this was not good. It wasn't until a couple years later I revisited the movie, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. And ever since, every time I watch it after, I like the movie. I think it's a good Kevin Smith movie. Oh, yeah. Well, Danny, you're watching. I'm not going to pin your comment. Obviously, I don't want to do that. But watch the full movie because that one scene is way, it did not hold up well. Yeah, here's the thing about Clerks 2. The Danny MB network brings me to a point about Clerks 2 that is I have to take into account when I rank it. And that is that this movie... This actually might be the worst aged Kevin Smith movie. I think I take back what I said about Strike Back. I think this movie is the one that holds up the worst because it's homophobic, it's racist. There are elements of this movie that are definitely not funny. They're meant to be funny and they're just not. There is some stuff that I think is funny. There's a lot of like religion comedy that I think is funny in this movie. And in the other Clerks movie, Clerks 3, but this one did not age good. It did not age good, and I'm gonna put it in good. I'm gonna put it in passable. You know, here's the thing: I like it a lot more than Jersey Girl, but I also think that there's some drawbacks to that movie that even Kevin Smith would admit make it a little bit hard to watch with people. You know, if you're watching it by yourself and you get that kind of icky feeling. It's okay when you're alone to get that icky feeling and maybe just... But when you're with people and you're watching this movie, it just creates an uncomfortable situation during some of the more offensive scenes. And so for that, I'm going to say it's passable. I do think it's very funny. I think it has a lot of heart. I kind of love the ending of this movie, but it kind of ends with them just taking control over their shitty situation by literally owning the shit that is their situation, which I think is kind of good. But yeah, it's a tough one. So sorry to you guys that are going to be frustrated with me for saying that it doesn't hold up well. I know a lot of us think it's funny, but some of that stuff is incredibly cringy just for how well it doesn't hold up, you know? Yeah, John Smith, I'm not gonna acknowledge that. I don't think that's funny at all. Okay. The next one, this is going to be fun to talk about. If you guys haven't seen Kilroy is Here, kind of an anthology movie from Kevin Smith. This one goes directly next to Yoga Hosers in whack. Man, Kilroy. I always want to say Killjoy. It's not Killjoy. It's even more, it's not B, it's C horror. Kilroy. This was a movie that's like a weird history. Do you guys remember when this movie came out? It was like Kevin Smith released it only for like people that pre-ordered it, or like only if you were like a member on some part of his website. I can't remember. But I just remember the movie being hard to access, and the only way that I saw it was, of course, extremely legally is how I saw this movie. So, you know, I saw it through maybe some potentially shady means, but this movie sucks. Don't watch it. It's not good. I think even Kevin Smith maybe didn't really take it that serious. This is, when I say low, this is kind of no budget filmmaking, which is okay. Some movies that are no budget are great, but look at Clerks, right? But this is, how do I explain it? This is Kevin Smith kind of trying to hearken back to like Creep Show or Tales from the Crypt style, like anthology horror about this mysterious entity called Kilroy, who kind of looks like fucking like Squidward, you know? And what can I say about this movie other than it's not scary? The cinematography, everything looks bad. It doesn't look good. It's got Kevin Smith's daughter and like family in it, so it's a very small production. I think this would be like how I would say this is Kevin Smith attempting to do a Robert Rodriguez thing if adapting Tales from the Crypt. And it did not work, and I did not like it. Danny, I'm Kilroy. No. It's no good. It's no good. I don't like the yeah, he sold it through blockchain. Oh my God. John Phantom, thank you for the clutch comment there. That's how you saw Kilroy. That's right. You had to buy like an NFT or like you had to buy like Kevin Smith coin, right? Or like whatever the equivalent was. You had to buy the movie as like a downloadable like NFT basically. Ew, dude. Ugh. Well, don't watch it. Don't do that. Also, you probably can't even do that anymore. It's probably since been debunked as the worst fucking idea ever. Don't fall for it, okay? All right, guys, let's get on with the list. Let's make with the list. Okay, next is Kevin Smith's newest movie, the 4:30 movie. This is a semi-autobiographical film that kind of explains how Kevin Smith decided he wanted to be a filmmaker. I mean, conceptually, it's a pretty fucking awesome concept. It's a great cast. I think it's just a passable movie, to be honest. I keep trying to convince myself. I've seen this movie like 4 times since it came out. I bought it blindly. When it came out, I bought it on digital without even watching a trailer. I was just like, Kevin Smith, semi-autobiographical. I'm going to buy it. I'm just going to assume it's all right. At least all right. And it's exactly that. It's just all right. It's a very short movie. The 4:30 movie has been out for a while, bud. Oh yeah, Ryan. 4:30 movie is available on digital now, man. You can watch it. I've seen it a bunch of times. Here's the thing with it. It's a movie that, in concept alone, is awesome. I love the idea of seeing how one of my most influential filmmakers wanted to become a filmmaker. I love the idea of an origin story for Kevin Smith. The problem that the movie has is it's very clearly written by Kevin Smith in the now with references to the now, which take me out of the entire thing. I saw this movie and I saw a movie called Snack Shack, and they both came out at around the same time. Snack Shack, 9 out of 10 movie. 4:30 movie, the watered down, generic, boring version of that. Now, there's funny moments, and I love what's his name, Austin, whatever his name is, who plays Brian David in the movie, the kind of Kevin Smith insert. Love his performance. He's so funny. The problem is that the movie does a lot of like winking at the camera, like as if only Kevin Smith fans are watching it, and as if we're watching it and we have no fucking idea what's going on in today's world. Like, here's what I mean. There's a lot of references where like there's a part where Sam Richardson, who's in the movie for a cameo, is talking about Bill Cosby. And the movie takes place in the 80s, before Bill Cosby was found out to be a disgusting, terrible piece of shit, right? So what happens is the guy goes, oh, Bill Cosby, he's a national treasure. Nothing's ever going to happen to make people not like him. And he kind of looks at the camera and winks. Or they go, oh, Batman, there's no way they're going to make a bunch of Batman movies. Oh, there's no way there will be a Star Wars spin-off TV show. It's just so much of that shit. And here's the thing, dude. We already know that all that shit is happening. Most of us aren't even happy about it. So it's kind of like saying that in the 80s, kids were looking forward to the prospect of how good movies would be, and none of it came true. And that's kind of like they're making jokes about things that are actually happening. So it's a little bit cynical in a way. It doesn't feel like a love of filmmaking. It feels like a love of 1984 specifically or whatever, you know? And that's fine too. Like, I like the movie on some of those levels. I think that some of the stuff works. But I also think it just feels very like generic. It feels like if Kevin Smith really wanted to tell his story of what made him want to get into movies, I don't think it was a good idea to basically have the whole thing set in one day in a movie theater with not enough meat to make the story feel high stakes or feel like it really was a moving moment in his life. It almost just feels like a regular day in Kevin Smith's life as a teenager, which is just him watching 10 movies and quoting movies, which is fun, but like not for a movie. That's just fun to do with your friends when you're that guy, you know? Not fun to see a movie about that guy. That's why when we all do our self-insert characters, we make them a little sexier, a little more interesting, you know? At least that's what I do. All right, guys, let's get on to Red State, a Kevin Smith film. Now, this is same with Tusk and Yoga Hosers. This is part of Kevin Smith's True North trilogy, his Canadian horror movie trilogy. Red State. I don't like this movie. This movie, it's not that I don't think it's well made, although I don't think it's that well made. It's that this movie gives me a fucking panic attack followed by a fucking stomach ache. This Red State is the kind of movie that if you're like me and you don't like when movies talk about politics too much, this movie will drive you fucking up a wall. Because it's a movie rooted in not just politics, the most extreme politics. You know, it's kind of like the red pillars. And I'm not saying either way, one way or the other. I'm just saying that like any version of a political film, when it's the extreme group, it's hard to connect with any of that. And for me, it was just, I guess it did what he wanted it to do. I felt like it was kind of gut-wrenching, made me feel sick to my stomach, gave me anxiety. But because of that, this is a movie I kind of avoid watching in general. In fact, even doing research for the tier list this week, I just skimmed the movie. I didn't watch the whole thing. I've seen the whole movie, but you know, for this time around, I just didn't watch the whole thing. I just skimmed it to kind of refresh myself on what some of my initial feelings about the movie are. I think it's okay. Like the writing isn't great. The dialogue is pretty bad. It's not written very well. It's just, it feels raw. And so I think that there is merit in that. It feels like a very raw movie, and I love John Goodman. Who doesn't love John Goodman? He can deliver lines from anybody and they'll be good. But I just think other than that, this is a movie I will actively avoid in the future from Kevin Smith. I don't like Red State. I don't feel good about it, you know? Now for the next one is Holidays, which is not a Kevin Smith movie per se. It's an anthology horror movie in which Kevin Smith co-directed a segment of. It's passable, I guess. There's some sequences in the movie that are okay. This is one, if you guys like anthology horror movies, I know some of you don't. I do. Track this one down maybe on a rainy day, make some popcorn, and just check it out, because some of the filmmakers, you know, it's worth watching just to see some of those guys. Oh, John Phantom. Yeah, you got to check out Kevin Smith's horror movies, man. They're not, if you love movies like Mallrats and Dogma, don't watch these and expect to like them like that, because they're not as awesome. All right. Speaking of movies like Dogma is my second Snoogans level GOAT tier Kevin Smith movie. I love Dogma. Okay. Listen to me, guys. Dogma is, I believe, my favorite Kevin Smith movie ever. Is there some racist, homophobic, potentially problematic jokes? Yes, I guess, probably. Not really. There's not like a lot, but like there's some really risky early 2000s jokes in there that don't fly today. Again, can't stress this enough. I don't condone that kind of stuff. This movie was made in the 90s. What do we do? No, it didn't. You guys are lying. The audio's not out. It's a movie that is perfect for Kevin Smith in that it has all the things that he's good at. You can count on him for like good celebrity cameos. You can count on him for high concepts. You can count on him for taking a grounded approach to those high concepts and making them kind of I don't know, taboo, I guess, you know, like taking the idea of like two angels who got kicked out of heaven and are going to murder their way back in. That's absolutely something that, oh, I know I'm back. It was never out. You guys, maybe your speakers went out, but I'm back, you know? So that was something that, yeah, that was something that, it's just, it has Kevin Smith's like juices, you know, like going, and he gets into his most creative self and he makes Dogma. I love the satire on like religion. I actually think it's clever. I don't even think it's like, I don't think it's brilliant or anything. I just think it's clever, but that's all it has to be. It's just a clever little play. You can tell Kevin Smith was raised Catholic and he's just having fun with that, you know? I love Chris Rock as the 13th Apostle. I love Jason Lee as Azrael. He's one of Kevin Smith's actors, you know, regular actors that I think is so good. I love Jason Lee. Yeah, the shit demon from this movie. This movie also, I think, has the best cast of any Kevin Smith movie. With Dogma, you're talking, obviously, Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, but you're talking Selma Hayek, Chris Rock, Alan Rickman as what's his name, a seraphim or whatever, the voice of God, the angels. Alanis Morissette as God herself, hilarious. Yeah, the movie is, it's a movie that is just so good, start to finish. It's funny, it is intense, it's bloody, it's got some good like you know, like gore and like, I don't know, almost like horror scenes with some of these like kills, you know. It's a great movie. Yeah, Jabba the Shit Demon. Yeah. This is the one where the guy who plays Hooper in Chasing Amy initiates Jay and Silent Bob into a gang. They're all in a strip club with Selma Hayek, and they initiate Jay and Silent Bob into a gang, and they summon a shit demon to kill. If you guys haven't seen the movie, I don't want to ruin everything, but basically to kill the disciple of Jesus who's going to save the world. And there's a shit demon that they summon, and Jay and Silent Bob take it out the most gangster way possible, you know? They spray it up with a bunch of Uzis, that doesn't work, and then Silent Bob comes in with that reel. You guys will know if you watch the movie. Oh yeah, Metatron. The Metatron. That was Alan Rickman. The Metatron. The highest choir of angels. I can't do his voice. I can't. He's too good. All right, so we're looking good here. I'm actually really happy with this list so far. We're going to move on for the sake of time, and I still got 3 giveaways to get to tonight, you know? All right, guys, we're talking Chasing Amy, a movie that even Kevin Smith himself has said was maybe a little bit misguided, maybe not told from the right perspective, blah, blah, blah. I love this movie. This is one of this is, I don't care if it didn't age great. I know who I am, and I know that I love this movie with love in my heart for everyone, okay? I think Chasing Amy is good, and I also think, yeah, it did not age so good just given the movement of LGBTQ since the movie came out. Here's the thing. I think this movie was always pro, LGBT. Obviously it was. That's the whole point of the movie. But I think that what Kevin Smith now looks at is that the movement has changed so much, and there's so much he maybe didn't know then or think about then that could have made the movie more sensitive now. But if you cast all of that aside, you look at this movie when it came out, like the way, things were, whatever, like, it just don't think about that. Just think about when the movie came out in the world that we were in. This movie meant something. This movie's in the fucking Criterion collection. Okay. So there's obviously, an important weight that movie has, and I don't think it's pretentious that it's in the Criterion collection. I don't think it's a novelty thing either. I really think that this is a movie that holds some level of importance for people of that time, and especially for, dare I say it, the incel community. Holden Caulfield, that's from Catch the Right. Holden McNeil, Ben Affleck in Chasing Amy, was basically the original, like, fedora nice guy, right? He just found a hot chick who liked comics and thought he could fix her. That's insensitive for sure, but that's the conflict of the movie, is he needs to learn that people are the way they are. It's not about anything else. And it's not about you. It's not about anything, The only irony there is that the movie was about him. That's the irony, okay? That's the part that didn't age well, is that the movie is about a straight white guy trying to fix, somebody who's not broken. That's the beef. But everything else holds up great. It's a good movie. And I even think the fact that Jason Lee's character, Banky Edwards, was a little bit edgy and homophobic, I think that's part of the character that needed to be there for the conflict of the movie. So I think those jokes and stuff that were written, they are harsh, but I think they were supposed to be from that character. They were supposed to be harsh in order for him to kind of, have an arc and learn. So I think Chasing Amy is great. It's a movie that I enjoy. I'm also a big comic book lover, and I think that this movie's like, it's just so drenched in comic book DNA. There's a lot of scenes at Comic Cons, and you see a lot of like rough sketches of panels from the Blunt Man and Chronic. I like that. So thank you, Barry Provost. Great way to say it. Thank you. I appreciate. Okay, next we have Jay and Silent Bob's reboot. I hate this movie. Maybe this is my least favorite Jay and Silent Bob movie by a lot. I think Jay and Silent Bob reboot is stupid. I think it's almost insulting to Kevin Smith fans because it's so, it's just littered with nostalgia and member berries in a way that we make fun of Marvel and DC for doing, but this movie does it worse than any of them. I mean, we're talking, you get Jason Lee as Brody going, yeah, you got to watch out for all the Mallrats. And he looks right at the camera and goes, map, ba-da-da-da. Get, the line from the other movie. And then you have, callbacks to movies that were already callbacks to other movies. Like in Strike Back, it was cute. In Strike Back, there was like these meta moments of Ben Affleck going, smells like someone shitting their cereal. Bung. That's from Chasing Amy. So they do that in Strike Back. It's fun. But then they do it again in Reboot. And it's Ben Affleck doing an impression of him in Strike Back, which was an impression of him in Chasing Amy. And it's stupid. Now, I said when we talked about Zack and Miri that I would talk about how it is connected to the larger Clerks universe. This was the movie that confirmed it. They had Justin Long's character, who was one of the best characters in Zack and Miri. They had his character from Zack and Miri in Jay and Silent Bob reboot as a lawyer, which is the job he had in Zack and Miri. So this was a movie that I think Kevin Smith really just made for himself and his friends. My brother, is one of those people. He's another big Kevin Smith guy. We both grew up on him. And my brother's always talking about, Kevin Smith, he made reboot for us, for the fans that know all the quotes and the lore. I don't give a shit. I already know the quotes and the lore. I don't want a whole movie of the cast who originally said the quotes and lore redoing the quotes and lore back to me. I don't fucking need that. I also could have done, I like the Val Kilmer cameo, but I could have done without all the cameos in that movie. It was ridiculous. And I think that's something to be said for more Kevin Smith movies that are still on this list for us to talk about. So I hate Jay and Silent Bob's reboot. I wish that Kevin Smith didn't make that, and I wish he made something else instead. Cop Out. This is passable. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's shot okay. Notoriously, Bruce Willis hates Kevin Smith because this was the movie where Bruce Willis found out that Kevin Smith maybe didn't have all the same knowledge as all the directors or other directors, and it's fine. It's a buddy cop comedy. Tracy Morgan's obnoxious. Bruce Willis is stoic. Together, it's very funny. There you go. Next, we've got. Actually, I'm gonna move one down. Okay. Next, we've got Mallrats, which I have to put at the top as one of the great Kevin Smith movies. This one, again, if you're a comic book fan, which I am, Mallrats is a movie where the Stan Lee cameo, the opening title sequence with like the Mallrats custom comic book art, the comic book culture that's present in this movie. This was a huge movie for me growing up. This was one. Powder Keg, who's Tracy and Bruce? Oh, you mean Tracy? Oh, Tracy Morgan and Bruce Willis, of course. No. They don't have chemistry, but that's why it's funny. You know, that was like the only funny part of the movie is that they clearly don't have any chemistry. You know. So anyway, guys, Mallrats is it's one of those movies rooted in comic book culture. Growing up as a kid, it just kind of made me want to go hang out at the mall with my friends all day. And believe me, I did. I spent so much time. Shout out the Rogue Valley Mall, Medford, Oregon. I spent so much time there as a kid, just walking around, hanging out because of this movie and making me think that it was cool. I love the game show. I love the fucking Michael Rooker role as Brandy's dad. One of the best quotes, or one of the best lines to ever open up a movie is the opening line of Mallrats. And if you don't remember, the opening line of Mallrats is, "One time my cousin Walter got this cat stuck in his ass." That's the line that opens up this movie. And then that turns into a long monologue from Jason Lee, which is so funny. Yeah, R.I.P. Shannon Doherty. That's who you're thinking of, a random YouTuber with Kiki as the profile picture. Shannon Doherty, who played Renee in Mallrats. Rest in peace. Also from Heathers, 90210. Okay, we love her. Yep, gone are the days of the mall. In are the days of the Amazon drone delivery same day shit, you know? I'm not saying it's not cool, just think it's whack. So yeah, Mallrats, undebatable. I was gonna propose to her at Universal when Jaws pops out of the water. You guys have, when I was getting engaged, I'm married now, but when I was getting engaged, you have no idea. My crew, my boys and I, how many times that joke came up that I was gonna propose at Universal when Jaws pops out of the water. It's a movie that shaped my life, boys and girls, y'all. I'm looking at this tier list so far, and you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking like, this is exactly what's in my heart. I think this is good. We've got two more, and they're both Clerks related. So the final Kevin Smith film on this list is Clerks 3. I like this movie. I'm putting it in great. This movie made me cry. It made me laugh. It brought back characters that I loved from Clerks 2. It brought back characters that I loved from Clerks. It brought in characters from everything. The Impractical Jokers are in this movie, and I'm a big fan of the Impractical Jokers. Them's my dogs, my homies. So yeah, you know, I feel good. I think the thing about Clerks 3 that obviously for fans of Kevin Smith, this made us cry because it's kind of Kevin Smith's story of the real life heart attack that he had and kind of the perspective that he gained after surviving that. But also the ending of this movie, the way that the movie, spoiler alert, it doesn't matter. The movie came out 2 years ago. The movie ends with Dante saying, "I'm not even supposed to be here today." But before he can finish saying it, Dante dies of a heart attack. And then he wakes up in, I guess, like heaven. It's like a movie theater, and he's just watching the movie of his life. And I just think I don't know. That's one of those movies that kind of like it ended where it all began. And I don't know, man. That movie really hits home, and it's great. The only thing that stops it from being ideal is that it's also just a little bit too heavy on the references, a little bit too heavy on like the winking at the camera. Yeah, total downer. Dante, I don't think Dante does deserve better. Here's the thing. We love Dante, but Dante was kind of a dick. Dante was kind of not that great of a dude. He was kind of a selfish guy. And he kind of got what he needed, which was he was never going to move on. It was Randall's job to move on, and Dante was the dead weight all along. Wow. Beautiful. And finally, perhaps the greatest thing that Kevin Smith has ever made in his career, the Clerks cartoon. If you guys haven't seen the Clerks cartoon, please do yourself a favor and track it down somewhere and watch it. You can't rent it on YouTube, but I think it might be on Prime for digital, or find it on physical. If you buy the DVD, buy the double disc DVD because it's got these special features on it that you guys have to see. They're so good. The Clerks cartoon is easily my favorite Kevin Smith thing, and that's coming from me. You know, I mean, I'm a Kevin Smith fangirl through and through. Okay, I celebrate the guy's most of his entire catalog. The thing is, the Clerks cartoon, I've seen. There's only 6 episodes. It was one season on ABC. It came and went. It is the best thing he's made. It's the funniest. It's the cleanest. It's the sharpest. My favorite episode is episode 2, where I think Kevin Smith might have already known the show was getting canceled, so he did an episode. It was just the second episode of the show where they did like a flashback episode. You know, like at the end of like Roseanne, at the end of every season, one of the episodes is just flashbacks to like highlights from other episodes. They did that, only it's just the second episode, so they just keep flashing back to the same moment from the first episode, and it gets funnier the more they do it. It's so funny. I love it. This is the list. It's beautiful. You guys are beautiful, and I've got presents for you. So let's give away some stuff. Also, if you guys want to do your own Kevin Smith tier list, do it. Send it to me. I would love to see it, and we can chat. We can talk about it. My favorite thing about talking movies is talking movies with other people. So if you guys want to get in on that, then do it. But for now, let's do a giveaway. All right. First one coming in hot. We're giving away a Blu-ray copy of VHS Beyond. This is the new anthology horror film. It's a Shudder original, and this one's pretty good. I actually like some of the segments. We're giving away 3 of these. Okay, these Blu-rays are not just an HD copy of the movie, but they also come with some delicious special features. Oh, I disagree. cpgeek.org. I disagree. All right, so if you guys want to win a copy of this, the first person to answer this question will win a copy of VHS on Blu-ray. In 1993, Roger Ebert compared Kevin Smith to which acclaimed director in Ebert's review of Clerks? So Roger Ebert said Kevin Smith is the next who? First one to answer that will get a copy. Oh yeah, Kevin Smith's Tough Shit is a great audiobook. All right, who's gonna be our first? I love this this background music I've got. That's why I'm dancing. Sorry, I just realized you guys might not be able to hear it, but I'm vibing. And Roger Ebert. Nope, it wasn't George Lucas. Good guess though. It was not Martin Scorsese. Ooh, this is a good one. It was not Martin Scorsese. Who was it, boys? Come on, who was it? Who was it? Roger Ebert said Kevin Smith is the next, not Farrelly Brothers, not Scorsese, not George Lucas. Kevin Smith is the next who? Nope, not Zucker. This was when Clerks came out. This was 93. Not Cronenberg. Oh, you guys. Not John Hughes. That's a good guess, but not John Hughes. Kevin Smith is the next who? I feel like it's going to seem obvious when I tell you guys, though. No, not Mel Gibson. I have other questions if you guys can't get this one, but this one is Googleable, so you guys should be able to find it. This one is available. This information is out there. No, oh, good guess, Roger Corman, but nope, not Richard Linklater. Oh man, this is gonna seem so obvious when somebody gets it. Not Mel Brooks. Come on, guys. Someone's got to get it. Not Spielberg, not Richard Linklater, not Corman, John Hughes. You guys are missing kind of a big... I'm glad I picked this one. Jeez. Maybe I should just give all 3 copies to whoever gets this one right. Ooh, D, great guess, but no cigar. That's a good guess, but it is not Robert Altman. That is a good guess, though. Smith reminds me of Robert Altman. Not Cronenberg. Oh, man. Okay. Somebody's got to get it soon, and if we don't get it soon, I'm going to have to move on to the next one. Not Ivan Reitman. Yes! Mr. Bucketman! Quentin Tarantino. Kevin Smith got called the next Quentin Tarantino. Ooh, that's another good guess too, Carlos. It's not Francis Ford Coppola, but that would have been a good guess as well. He got called the next Quentin Tarantino by Roger Ebert in his review of Clerks. That is sick. All right, so Mr. Bucketman, here's what you're going to do. You are going to email arrow@joeblow.com, Mr. Bucketman. Email arrow@joeblow.com to claim your prize. Okay, now I'm going to give it away 2 more of these guys, so don't worry. Don't lose hope. If you didn't win this one, you got 2 more chances to win. Okay, but Mr. Bucketman, there you go. All right, guys, let's get on to giveaway numero dos. We're talking about more Kevin Smith trivia. Okay, we're talking about VHS Beyond. We're talking about Blu-ray. Same prize as before. New question. This one is a lot easier, so I'm assuming we'll get our winner much faster this time. Y'all. Okay, here's the question. Oh, sorry. Which famous superhero did Kevin Smith write a full screenplay for before being canceled? So Kevin Smith wrote the screenplay to a superhero film. There was a script in place, a director attached, a cast, but the movie got scrapped. What was that movie? The winner will get a copy of VHS on Blu-ray. Who can do it? Gilberto, yeah, I'm the voice of some of the videos. Yes. Some of the videos, not all of them. Brian Leader. Oh, no, sorry, Brian. I'm so sorry, Brian. It was actually Danny MB. The Danny MB network was the first one that got it, and that was Superman. Kevin Smith actually wrote the Nicolas Cage and Tim Burton Superman movie. He wrote the screenplay for that. I really wish we could have I would love to have seen what that came with. Tim Burton directing it, Kevin Smith writing it, Nicolas Cage as Superman. That would have been a Superman movie unlike anything we've ever seen, right? Yeah, Superman Lives is the name of it. All right, so Danny, same goes for you, the Danny MB Network. Here's what you got to do. You got to email arrow@joeblow.com. Make sure you guys are sending your names and your shipping address, okay? And we're going to send that off and make sure that you guys get your prizes stat, okay? Great job, guys. I've got one more Blu-ray to give away tonight, okay? So we're giving away our 3rd copy of VHS Beyond to the first person who can tell me what was the name of the comic book series that Banky, it says Banks, it should say Banky, went on to create after Bluntman and Chronic in Chasing Amy. So at the end of Chasing Amy, Banky Edwards, Jason Lee, is seen at a comic book panel for his new comic book. What is the name of the comic book? First one to get it will win the final copy of VHS Beyond on Blu-ray. This one's going to be hard. It is not Chasing Amy. That's the book that Holden went on to create. But the comic book that Banky went on to create was something different. Zoran, I'm Kier. That's who I am, you know. The channel is Joe Blow Originals. Arrow in the Head is our it's one of our other channels, but I'm just Kier. No, Chasing Amy is the comic that Holden McNeil created. I'm talking about the comic that Banky Edwards created. Nope, Danny, it is not Chasing Amy. It is not Chasing Amy. Chasing Amy is the name of the comic that Holden created. Banky created a different comic. This is a deep cut. For those of you that love Chasing Amy, you should know it. It's not Spank Man. Okay, well, Zoran, it's okay if you don't want the Blu-ray. You don't have to play. This is for those that want it, I guess. Come on, guys. Somebody has to know this one. This one I thought would be difficult. In fact, I knew this one would be hard, but I thought for sure there'd be at least one person out there that had it. What was the name of the comic book that Banky Edwards created? It was not Quick Stop. It's not Quick Stops. It's not these, although these are cool comics. It's not these. It is not the Quick Stops. Banky from Chasing Amy at the end of the movie is the writer and artist of a new comic book. What is the name of that comic book? Baby Dave, Metal Horror Fanatic rocked it out with Baby Dave. Yes, bro. Yes, bro. It is Baby Dave. I'm stoked. Yeah, Banky's just a tracer, Brian Leader. He's just a tracer. All right, so I can't believe you got it, man. That's so sick. Because I was starting to wonder if anybody would. So, Metal Horror Fanatic. Email arrow@joeblow.com. Get yourself a prize. Great work. Great work. Oh, yeah, I'm always doing that walk, too. I walk everywhere like that. Yes, I totally get that, Danny MB. All right. Okay, guys. So that was my list of Kevin Smith movies, my ranking of Kevin Smith movies. That's what I was trying to say. And there are 3 copies of VHS Beyond on Blu-ray for you 3 lucky sons of bitches. You guys, thank you for being here. I was so excited for tonight, and you guys did not disappoint. Thank you for being so active in the chat. I apologize for any of those audio issues that we were having. I'll take the email off screen now. I apologize for any of those audio issues. I honestly think that maybe the cord was just went